Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to our first ever press conference. The idea behind this is we want to give the student body a clearer idea of what we're working on behind the scenes and get more input as we're working on all of our initiatives. So thank you so much for being here. Hopefully this will be the first of multiple, and we'll take questions at the end.
Cool. All right, it's my turn. Excuse me, Jane. No, you're good. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Before we get into kind of the updates, I want to give a huge shout out to Shane and the ops team sitting in the front here for putting this together. I know we originally had this scheduled back a couple weeks ago, but then classic Hoboken, the water main broke, so we had to reschedule. So great job to everyone in planning this. Super exciting. So yeah, I guess the purpose of it is to kind of go over what every member of our cabinet and leadership team are working on in student government to give you a better idea of what the SGA is working on, what our goals are, where we're heading, things of that nature. So I'll go ahead and start. So I guess let me do an introduction. My name is Alexander Stanzak. I am the current president of the Student Government Association. Started in January. Our terms will run towards December. So right now, what I'm working on, I guess you could say, first point there, supporting the SGA's vision, encouraging student involvement. Right now, we have a central theme of encouraging student involvement. That is extremely broad, but that's the point. The point is that we can fit so many different aspects under this central theme of encouraging student involvement, such as student-faculty interaction and student representation and decision-making, which some of the other cabinet members will touch on throughout the press conference today. But that's what we're working towards. Every single goal that we have has a focus of getting students on our campus involved in our community, getting their voices heard, be it in our Senate meetings or just through general feedback, something Shane will talk about in the next slide. So specifically, how I'm supporting that is I'm working with all of our cabinet members and all of our leadership to support their goals, to help with goal setting, to help with what are the metrics that we're looking for, how can we compile all of this data so that we can actually determine whether we've achieved the goals that we set out to do. And then being president of SGA, one of my written down responsibilities is to be the main advocate of the SGA to the undergrad student body. So I'm constantly trying to get opinions through conversations, focus groups, whatnot, in the student body so we can bring it to the student governments and act on it, bring it to a specific committee, so on and so forth. All right, next point there, SGA integration into new facets of campus. So historically, the student government has had an excellent relationship with student life and the Division of Student Affairs, and that continues to be true. We have a great working relationship with them. You could think of athletics, CAPS, Dean of Students, like I said, student life, etc., so on and so forth. Something that the previous administration started doing was branching out of just student affairs and interacting a lot more with different departments and divisions on our campus. So that's something that we are trying to continue, spreading the reach of student government, right? We can work really well with student affairs and student life, but there's a lot more to campus, right? So for instance, academics, we have a vice president of academic affairs who you'll hear from who has great relationships with academics, but expanding that. We just got back from the faculty senate meeting today, for instance, where we discussed how students and faculty can collaborate. We're working with the Division of Enrollment Management, so we can figure out how can the SGA interact with prospective students and admitted students so that the minute they step onto our campus, they know there is an organization, the student government, that is there representing them, led by students, right? Formed by students. So that general sentiment across all of our divisions, right? Arthur, our Vice President of Finance, is working with Stephen's finance team and the university's Vice President of Finance on how we best can incorporate the university's strategic goals with the student government's goals. That way we can all work towards one central theme. Because when we're all working in collaboration with each other in unity, we can best work towards a unified vision, so to speak. Okay, and then the last point there, SGA leadership development. Part of the student government is representing the undergraduate student body. However, for those that are involved, there should be some other takeaway in addition to leaving a positive impact. Part of that is leadership development and personal impact, which, by the way, is one of our core values. So working with our members, I'll highlight Alicia, our Vice President of Recruitment and Retention, to create programs where we can develop the leaders in our Senate, all the way from senators to cabinet members to assistant vice presidents and directors and so on and so forth. Right? Everyone should be able to walk out of student government feeling like they've bettered their personal leadership we'll say, leadership skills, and so on and so forth. So that's a little bit of what I'm working on. There's always something going on, something happens to pop up here and there that I'll deal with, but generally that's where we're headed, and that's what I'm up to. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my updates. I'll hand it over to Shane for the next slide.
All right, I actually have the next two. Unfortunately, our Vice President of Academic Affairs is sick today, and so I'm standing in. I'll go over everything she wanted to update everyone on. But one of the core things I've been working on is feedback integration. And so you'll see at the very end of this presentation, there is a QR code for everyone to scan, and this QR code will be posted all over campus. And it'll have places for students to give their input on common issues, as well as open-ended input. So you'll see that later. Additionally, we've been working on administering a lot of the programs that the SGA currently has, one of which being Typo, the Take Your Professor Out program, where you get to take a professor of your choice to lunch in Pie Kitchen. For those interested, we have the QR code here for those in person, and it's also posted in a bunch of SGA channels. And we are at roughly 27 applicants right now, so if anyone wants to apply, we might still have space to get more people in this semester, and if not, there's certainly space for next semester. In addition to this presentation and this event, you could also email sga@stevens.edu, and we're always responding to those emails that we do receive. So if you have any feedback, we want to hear it. Additionally, we're working on transparency, which is keeping the student body more informed on what we as student government are working on. So there will be an article recapping everything we discussed today in the Stute, likely the first edition when we get back from break. In addition to that, this presentation has been live streamed with help from SITTV, which we of course appreciate. And so anyone who wants to watch this from home can do so, and it will also be posted in its entirety after this. And lastly, our secretary has been working on putting together newsletters to be sent out to the student body, once again, to keep people informed on everything we're working on. And quick shout out to our Stevens SGA Instagram, which is being run by Ilya, which we really appreciate. We're trying to get a lot more posts out on there. If you don't already follow it, we strongly suggest that you do so. And then Christina's updates are as follows. As Alex mentioned, there's been interaction with the Faculty Senate, which has been great. And there are a number of academic initiatives that are ongoing. One of the big ones that Christina is really working on is OSHA certification for first-year students, which she wants to get integrated into the first-year experience course or some of the core engineering classes, if possible. Additionally, we're trying to work on faculty-student interaction, which was a goal of the past administration that we're bringing forwards through programs like Take Your Professor Out and other interactive programs. In addition, mark your calendars. We have Academic Affairs Week coming up, March 24th to 28th, which is the first week back from break. There'll be events all throughout that week on how to get involved in Stevens academics and to get your feedback. And then there will be an additional week, Undergraduate Research Week, where students interested in pursuing research on campus have a chance to do lab tours and other interactive activities, as well as more opportunities to give your feedback on how academics at Stevens is going. So if you're interested in giving your feedback, or if you're interested in getting more involved with academics on campus, definitely mark your calendars. There'll be lots of events both of these weeks. And we pass it over to Arthur.
Awesome. Hello everyone. The last time I was on SITTV, I was wearing a toga. So I'm a little bit better dressed this time around. So as my role as President of Finance, I handle the student activity fee and all that entails. A lot of it is very boring, monotonous, same thing every year kind of work. But what we're working on, which is kind of new right now, is we're doing a change to the financial amendment. The financial amendment is the set of guidelines that dictates everything that we do in terms of finances. It's a bit outdated at the moment, so we're clarifying some of the guidelines, making it more clear to treasurers what they can and can't do legally, because a lot of our rules are, unfortunately, based off of legal issues. SGA has line items, which are what we have to pay into every year. We've never had a list of line items of what we pay for, so we're clarifying that and giving the SGA an ability to create temporary line items. That's a change that has been approved by the Budget Committee and now has to be a bill which has to be passed by the Senate. So that's coming soon. And that's also, the change is also based off of the fact that we have an increase in activity fee, which leads to my next thing. So this year, well, last year, the student activity fee was increased to $275, and next year will be increased to $315 per person per semester. That's a lot of money. It went from $250, which it was there since, I want to say, 2015, so a long time ago, because we just weren't hitting surplus anymore. In fact, we were deficit spending for the past 2 years because we just didn't have enough cash. We now do, which is fantastic. But it does mean that for this year, hopefully not next year, the SGA does have a little bit of a surplus. The exact numbers are unknown. A lot of our numbers are unknown because we are both purchasing and a saving account, which means that things that are being spent sometimes take up to 3 months for us to know exactly how much money has been spent. But we know that our funding cannot be kept from spring to fall, therefore we have to spend every single cent that we have by the end of the semester. So we're working closely with the library to do a small library renovation of the first floor. That should be completed in terms of planning by the end of April, and purchasing and installation can happen over the summer. That way, when students come back in the fall, they'll have nice new furniture on the first floor library. Finally, just a small update in terms of additional funding, because they did say that we increased some activity fee. We were so far giving clubs an additional $50,000 compared to last spring, and thank you, Alex. Yes. And clubs will probably, by the end of the semester, ask for an additional 30, and we'll give them an additional 30, which means that clubs are already seeing an $80,000 increase from 2024, which means that in fall 25, we'll have an additional more funding, maybe even more. I'm not sure exactly how much yet, but it should be very, very comfortable for everyone. So finances are in an excellent place, and we're doing cool things, besides all the monotonous, boring work that no one wants to do. And next, I think, is Sebastian Stolzberg.
All right, nice, awesome. Hi guys, I'm the Vice President of Student Interest, so I work with student organizations, student body, and kind of act as a liaison between all the student orgs, students, and SGA, and the offices on campus, right? So that involves helping student orgs grow, right? That's my first big thing, organizational support, right? Starting with the Committee of Student Interest, we have a committee specifically for working with student orgs and kind of having a large member base to kind of help grow our orgs, right? That committee used to be comprised of only 5 individuals, but has grown to, I think, 12 now. So we're definitely expanding, and we're looking to get more and more members so that we can better communicate with student orgs and kind of address any potential issues. That involved creating a CSI co-chair, right? Currently, John Marco Costa, who is very involved with EC amongst other clubs, him and I are working in tandem to kind of direct CSI to build up a support and foundation for student orgs, right? Another big priority for us is working with student orgs to increase collaboration for one. So kind of reaching out to orgs, reaching out to different kind of fields of organizations and having them collaborate on different events, right? It's a good way to kind of increase attendance for both organizations and then also bring a unique, broad kind of perspective to like new sorts of events. Another one are weekend events, right? It kind of goes hand in hand with what Student Affairs is trying to accomplish. We're trying to get more and more weekend events. So to accomplish that objective, an example would be the Weekend Cultural Food Festival we had a few weeks ago, hosted by our lovely ops team, right? We managed to invite, I think, over a dozen cultural orgs, and we had kind of an array of booths set up in the UCC where students could go around and kind of try different foods, right? That's just one example of both a collaborative event and also an amazing weekend event to kind of bolster and revitalize campus life on weekends, right? The final, third point, kind of mentioned to be something that the Vice President of Academic Affairs is working on, is student-faculty engagement, student-staff faculty engagement, right? So that involves kind of increasing the relation between faculty advisors and student organizations. So we're working not only to compile a list of current faculty advisors, but then also kind of reach out to clubs who don't have a faculty advisor, reach out to clubs with inactive faculty advisor, and kind of establish guidelines to make faculty advisors more engaged, and then also bring in new faculty and staff, right? Finally, new organizations. We set a record for the most new organization applications ever this semester. We had 28, right? So thank you, Alex. Whoa. So I've been working with the Office of Student Life to kind of narrow that down and then get a final list of accepted new orgs and add to our already really vibrant campus life. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Now, next up is Michael.
Jalen.
Jalen.
I'll fill in for Jalen here. Let me just refresh this slide over here. How do I go back to full screen? Present?
Yes.
Ooh.
And then present again.
All right. Great. I don't normally use Canva, so. I got some feedback since the last time I've been up here that I wasn't making enough eye contact with the room. I was making too much eye contact with the camera, so sorry cameras. I'll focus on the room a little bit more for today, for this one. Jalen is not able to make it. I believe she's out sick, unfortunately, so we wish her the best. But I'll give her updates in her place. So the secretary, for those that don't know, their main goal of the SGA is to bridge the gap between student body and the SGA in terms of communication. How do you get involved? Also run all of our internal proceedings related to elections, taking minutes, publicizing minutes, so on and so forth. So currently, we have a vacancy election going on. We are in the voting phase, so if any of you have not voted yet, the link is live on our Instagram, I believe. It's also in our Slack channel, so go and vote. We are in a competitive election, which is very exciting, meaning after this vacancy election, our Senate will be full to a number of, what is it, about 48 senators, 50 senators, in that ballpark. So once this vacancy election concludes, we'll have a full student government of around 65 total members, including leadership and senators, which is very exciting. On the note of vacancy elections, though, what I'll say is we're constantly fluctuating our numbers. People join, they might realize it's not for them and leave, which is totally okay. But my point there is that there's always seats opening up. So if anyone is interested in joining the student government, reach out to Jalen. Her email is here. You can also reach out to the general SGA email, and you can get involved that way. I'll also make a note that at the beginning of the fall semester, so fall 2025, everyone in student government, senators, need to rerun. So all of our seats will be wiped clean, and everyone will have a fair, equal opportunity to get involved in student government. That's a really big election. It'll likely be competitive. It's very fun. You know, there's campaigning that goes on, different promotions, recruitment. So look out for that come the fall. And then I kind of touched on this, but in regards to goals that Jalen has, bridging the gap between SGA and the student body. I wish Jalen was here so you could see it for yourself, but Jalen is such an easy person to speak to and talk to. She's always trying to get feedback on how we can improve. And I'll also note that Jalen was not a part of the student government prior to this year. So she brings a very unique perspective that some of us that have been in it for quite some time may have not realized being in the organization. So kudos to Jalen for that. And I think I covered her slide for you all, yeah? Great, okay. I'll hand it off to Michael now, our Vice President of Relations.
Hi everyone, my name is Michael and I'm the Vice President of Relations. The VPR is oh, you want me to move this way? Oh, isn't that great? I'm so photogenic. So I'm the Vice President of Relations. This is a new cabinet role for this semester and going into the SGA. I originally was a senator. I served on the co-chair of the budget committee, and ultimately I've been very, very passionate about alumni and civic engagement, and it's been a huge gap in the student government, and that's really why we made this role, to really civically engage students, to bring together alumni and leaders on campus to ultimately have a greater impact for the student body and elevate that student voice. And that's really where it comes from in the central role of elevating a student voice. So actually last night, me, Alex, and our chair of the Government and Community Relations, Sarah Panaris, were at the mayoral State of the City, where we actually got a chance to meet the mayor and a few city council members to really talk about what's going on for the student body and for them to get a pulse on what's happening. So we want to continue to engage students to make sure that everyone is civically involved in Hoboken. You can register all to vote in Hoboken. We're having a huge council member election and the mayoral elections in the fall. If you've literally lived here for 30 days, you can, and have your voice heard. We're running a council member forum on April 13th, and we'd love to have everybody here to meet Hoboken City Council members and to ask questions directly to those who are elected to serve us. In addition, we're increasing student alumni interaction. This comes from a pilot program that's now transitioning to a full program called Take an Alumni Out to Lunch, where if you know any alumni at Stevens or you would like to get paired with an alumni to continue to network, you get a pie kitchen voucher when you invite them to lunch and have a sit-down lunch with them to network and possibly maybe get an internship or some career advice out of it. In addition, we're piloting new student alumni networking events. We're increasing the amount of a pool of engagement for RSOs to support them in bringing alumni to campus. It really comes back in addition to philanthropy, supporting those RSOs through their gift accounts. We had a majorly successful Day of Giving, and we really want to continue that work, in addition to our Student Alumni Council Advisory Board, having direct connections between alumni and students, and really continuing to bridge that gap. So also, at the end of the day, please register to vote. If you remember anything about this, register to vote in Hoboken and come to the council member forum. Thank you.
Awesome. In addition to that, we do have two big upcoming events, one of which was just briefly touched upon, and one of which people should have received an invite for, but they haven't filled it out. I'll touch on both of these. One thing that I've been working on with Sebastian is the Student Leader Appreciation Banquet, which is going to be a big dinner held on April 2nd, so a bit after we get back from break. Student leaders should have received an email. It's for any member of any club e-board on campus. We want to celebrate the work that student leaders are putting into making their club a special place and an enjoyable place for their members. And that form also has some feedback questions in it, which is a recurring theme. So anyone who is coming to the event should fill out that form, which they should have received via email, and they will receive again closer to the event. And in addition to that, we have the City Council Member Forum, where you get to ask questions to the people that will be ultimately representing you and the larger Hoboken community. So this is a great opportunity to give your input on what you want to see happen in Hoboken. I think it's really easy to forget that we can make a change not only here at Stevens, but in Hoboken at large. And so this is a great opportunity to do that and to hear about what each City Council member, what each City Council member is focused on representing. So both great events. As you can see, all the info's up here, and there will be more information posted on the Stevens SGA Instagram as we get closer to both of these events. And then lastly, if there are any questions or comments, you could share them with us in two ways. You can either ask them here if you're in person, or if you want to give feedback, you can scan this QR code. You have the option to submit both anonymous feedback or feedback tied to your name if you actually want to talk to us face-to-face about it. And again, you will see this QR code on flyers posted all around campus. So you'll have that opportunity as well if you don't have a chance to submit it right now. And are there any questions? Yes?
Can someone be involved in SGA and not be a senator?
Yes, there are lots of different ways to be involved in SGA besides being senator. First of all, and most importantly, our Senate meetings are open to the public. And we encourage people actively to show up, typically at 7 p.m. on Sundays. For this month, 7:30, and usually it's in UCC Gallery. We want any member of the public who has opinions on what's going on to show up and share their input. So yes, and then outside of that, there are a number of other ways to get involved. Committee meetings are open to the public as well, so if you have input on a specific aspect of Stevens' life, committee meetings are the place to go for that, and you could directly share your input there. And there are also other positions, like for example, we have some cabinet members who were not previously involved in SGA, and then decided to take the leap and to join. So there are tons of ways to get involved in SGA outside of becoming a senator.
You can also join the budget committee. Always a great thing to do as a non-senator.
Yes?
What is the best way to hear about SGA events or updates such as when committee meetings will take place?
I'm so glad you asked. The SGA Instagram, by far and away. There will be a flyer for every event, every large event, I should say, that we host on the SGA Instagram. So that's a great place to get your information. And if you don't follow it already, you should be following it. It's at Stevens_SGA. Yes?
If I'm interested in the typo program, how do I ask a professor, or do I just fill the form out first and then ask a professor?
Good question. So the typo form has instructions on how to reach out to your professor. You submit the form, and then once you're approved, you formally reach out to your professor, and you ask them to go out to lunch with you. And then we do the work on the back end, getting you a Pie Kitchen voucher. As you could tell, we have lots of programs that involve Pie Kitchen vouchers. We like our Pie Kitchen vouchers.
Take an alumni out.
So we'll get you a voucher once your professor confirms the time with you, and then you can go out to lunch. Yes?
How far in advance do I have to fill out the form?
At least a week. And that's really the bare minimum because we need time on the back end to get the form submitted to actually get that Pie Kitchen voucher to you. So at least a week, ideally 2 or 3 weeks if you can. It helps to plan things in advance. Yes?
Is the process to take a professor out the same to take an alumni out?
It's a very similar process, yeah. Same sorts of questions that you're answering. A lot of it is just who you want to go out with. So this way the school knows that you're actually taking the right person out with you. Any further questions? Awesome. Well, seeing none, thank you all so much for showing up. We really appreciate you giving your input. And again, you'll see these forms all around campus, these flyers all around campus. So if you do have input at any point in time, you can reach out to us via any of the channels that we've provided. So thank you all so much.